What's going on, my trainer club? Today we're going to check out, is it in your best interest to power up Excadrill in Pokemon Go? Because I've seen a lot of information out there. Excadrill, #1 ground attacker, definitely something I want to power up. So today we're going to check out, is it in your best interest to max out this guy in Pokemon Go? So welcome to the trainer club. Here we go. Welcome back, everybody. Let me know in the comments below. What do you think of Excadrill? Have you been considering powering one up? And where are you sitting as far as your ground attacker knowledge goes? Because today we are going to check out Excadrill. How good is it? Is it in your best interest to power it up? And where does it sit in Pokemon Go? So Excadrill is ground and steel combination. However, we're gonna focus primarily with it being a ground attacker. And the reason why is we'll see this towards the end of the video where we're gonna go over Excadrill as the DPS times TDO with overall for the steel type attackers. And you will see why very quickly why we are not covering it as a primary steel type attacker. So just wanted to do a quick reminder, my alumni shirt is gonna be available until October 10th. So make sure to get it before then. So moving right into it, we are going to get into Excadrill. If you already know DPS TDO and DPS times TDO, check my pinned comments below so you can skip right into the stats. But if you want to hear a quick recap of each of these categories, we are going to get into it right now. So starting off, we have the DPS. DPS stands for damage per second, which means how much damage can this Pokemon do? Just think of like one punch, right? Like bam, if we're thinking of like one knockout punch, that is basically gonna be DPS. It takes into stab effectiveness, meaning in this case scenario, using a ground Pokemon, is it getting a ground move? Because that's gonna boost its power in doing damage. The second thing that we have is gonna be TDO. TDO stands for total damage output, which means over the lifespan of the Pokemon, how much damage am I going to do? So the tankier Pokemon are going to do more damage compared to the glassier Pokemon. The glassier Pokemon is going to be something like, if we're looking at fire Pokemon, like a Blaziken. Blaziken is a little bit more glassy when we compare it to a Ho-Oh. Ho-Oh is a very, very tanky Pokemon, doesn't have such a high DPS. Blaziken, on the other hand, has a much higher DPS, a lot smaller TDO, which then leads us into our last category, which is the best statistic that we can have, which is DPS times TDO, which means over the lifespan of the Pokemon, doing as much damage as possible, what is the best overall Pokemon? Because having a high damage with no survivability, not good. Having a high survivability without doing any damage, also not such a good scenario. That's why we combine both of those statistics to have the best case scenario, but then we have to take it one step further and analyze it using our trainer brains, meaning if there are two Pokemon that are very close in stature, but one has a 2-bar special and one has a 1-bar special, we highly advise going with that 2-bar special, even if it's a few points lower, right? So that's where we sit. That's where we're gonna do. But starting off right now, we're gonna check out the DPS because DPS is going to make sure that we have the best damage for this Pokemon. So we're gonna get into the DPS of the ground attackers, which will include obviously the Excadrill right now. So starting off at the top, we are going to include the Therian form and the incarnate form of the Landorus because it's going to be coming at some point in the near future. The Therian form, Mudshot Earth Power, 17.32 at the top premier ground attacking spot. Then we have the Landorus incarnate form with the Mudshot Earth Power at the 15.75. Remember, these stats are just what they're in the game right now. They do have potential to get nerfed, which is why I can't put 100% weight on these guys, but based on their stats right now, they're looking pretty good. Then we have the DPS highest in the Excadrill, Mudslap Drill Run at 14.974. Then we have the reigning supreme right now, Groudon with the Mudshot Earthquake at the 13.957. Then we have Garchomp, Mudshot Earthquake at 13.671. Then we have a new Pokemon, Golurk, with the Mudshot Earth Power at 13.509. Then we have an Excadrill if it were to have the Earthquake combination at 13.444. Then we have the All Ground Mamoswine at 13.122. Rhyperior Mudslap Earthquake at 12.656. And then if you go on to the next page, you guys can go ahead and pause here. If you want to check out the Donphan or the Rhydon, those are in the 12th and 13th spots. Then we have the Golem, which used to be one of the premier attackers, and we have the Swampert as well. And then also if you want to pause on the third page, you can go ahead and do so right here. So super interesting, guys. We have legendary Pokemon that are not out yet that can really do some significant damage as far as reversing and changing around the DPS category for the ground attackers, which is definitely something that we need. We need a shakeup in the ground attackers. They are not premier attackers. They don't even sit close overall to the dragon attackers, which is okay, but we do want to try to get something that bumps them up a little bit. Next, you saw that the Excadrill right now is the #1 DPS ground attacker. Now we're going to check out the TDO. TDO is going to be the total damage output, which is going to basically see overall the entire lifespan of that Pokemon, how much damage can it do based on basically the tankiness of the Pokemon. So it could have a little bit of a shakeup right now. Let's check it out. Sitting at the top, we have a little bit of a shakeup here. We have Groudon, Mudshot, Earthquake. Groudon is going to be at the 517, and since Groudon is a little bit more tanky, it really does some weight in making up for some of his DPS that is lost. Then we have the Landorus Therian form with the Mudshot Earth Power, 513. Looking pretty good for that Pokemon right now. Then we have Garchomp with the Mudshot Earthquake at 501. Rhyperior Mudslap Earthquake at 479. Landorus Incarnate form, 473. Excadrill, the Pokemon we are focusing on, Mudslap Drill Run at 384. Then we have the Mamoswine Mudslap Bulldoze at the 376. Rhydon Mudslap Earthquake, 375. Then we have the Swampert with the Golurk. If you want to pause on page 2, you can definitely check it out here. We have the Golem that sits down there at the 338 and 334. And then if you go onto the third page, once again, you can pause here. Definitely not going to reach down on the third page just because these Pokemon are really not going to do the damage that we're looking to do when we were talking about the top attackers in the game. So you see that shakeup, guys. We went from the Excadrill to being #1 all the way to the Groudon being 1 and the Excadrill sitting in the 6th spot. And then we had the Garchomp coming in as well to play with the Rhyperior, which are definitely more tanky Pokemon. But you have to realize when you're fighting with these Pokemon, dying out is part of the battle and takes seconds to get new Pokemon in. So we really want to take into account the best overall Pokemon. So now we're going to check out the DPS times TDO, which means over the lifespan of the Pokemon with taking into account the damage, what is going to be the best overall Pokemon, and then we will analyze it using our brains to see what's the best strategy for the Excadrill and the ground attackers that are coming up in the near future. So here we go, DPS times TDO, ground attackers right now. So sitting at the top, we have the Landorus Therian form, Mudshot Earth Power, great moveset combination, 2-6, 6-5, way up there, reigning supreme as of right now. If I were to do an analysis, obviously right now, this would be the Pokemon to power up. However, we don't know if it's going to get nerfed or if the stats are going to change, so we can't put too much heavy focus because of how much higher it is than the current ones. The #1 overall is going to be Mudshot Earthquake on the Groudon, 1408. Then we have the Excadrill sitting in 2nd place, Mudslap Drill Run at 1291. Then we have the Garchomp with the Mudshot Earthquake at 1280. Then we have the Rhyperior Mudslap Earthquake, rapidly declining under 1,000 at the 970. Then we have Golurk, new Pokemon alert, Mudslap Earth Power, 859. Then we have the Mamoswine Mudslap Bulldoze at 851. Then we have another Excadrill if it were to have Earthquake, quite significantly lower, 400 points lower at 839. Then we have the Rhydon. If you guys want to go ahead and pause here, I'm going to point out a couple ones. We have the Swampert that sits at 489, super low down there. Golem, that's 472 and 450. Gastrodon, not going to look here. And then if you really want to go to the third page and see what these guys are sitting at, you can definitely go here. But for the top attackers, not going to be the third page optimal. Now we're going to check out the Excadrill as far as a steel type attacker. We're going to skip over the DPS and TDO and go straight into the DPS times TDO because I want to make this efficient for you guys. I want to keep it primarily to the ground attackers because it weighs more in the ground. So let's check it out right now. So sitting as the reigning supreme, we have the Metagross with the Meteor Mash. It has to be the Community Day moveset at 3,600. And this is the reason why we covered it primarily as a ground attacker and not a steel type attacker, because in comparison to the Metagross with the Meteor Mash moveset, that is going to be at 3,600. The Excadrill is at 1,445, so it's really not even a comparison, but it is above the regular Metagross without the Community Day moveset. So that's how impactful this moveset is to the overall steel typing. So I just want to put this in here for you guys just so that we know that it is a dual typing, but it does not weigh primarily because there are two that are so much higher for the Dialga and the Metagross. And now we have the overall stats with the Groudon sitting in #1. However, there is a differential in movesets, which means we should definitely use our trainer brains. And also, the other reason we really want to use our trainer brains right now is because we have two ground Pokemon that are coming out as legendaries in Gen 5 that, as of right now, are sitting at the top. They would have to get a 50% nerf on that Therian form in order to take it down from the #1 into the 2nd spot, which would be extremely surprising if that actually happened. So now, what do we do with the Excadrill? It's at 1,200. The Groudon is at 1,400, right? It does have a better moveset. It does have a shorter bar special, as we talk about. However, is it really in our best interest to start putting Stardust maybe potential rare candy if you don't have enough Drillbur candy, because it's not super common right now, into a Drillbur to get the Excadrill to then power it up. In my opinion, I would say no, because the Gen 5 legendaries can really take over the top. So I'm sure that some of you guys have a Groudon. As of right now, we don't need ground attackers. I don't foresee when we're gonna need ground attackers in the near future. So powering up a ground attacker right now is technically, like I talked about, putting gas into a truck, putting it in your garage and letting it sit there for a year. You just spent a bunch of money on gasoline that you can't even drive with, right? Same thing with this Pokemon. If you happen to power up an Excadrill, you're gonna sit it in your Poke Garage and not utilize it. Unless you're going after like Alolan Raichus and you don't have any powered up Groudons, then in that scenario, you may consider powering up an Excadrill. However, this scenario, do not power it up if you're using it for tier 5 raids, because it's not gonna be worth your time right now. There are in the near future going to be better ground attackers that are going to take over the top spot that I will definitely be assessing it in this best of the best manner to make sure you guys utilize your resources to the best of your abilities. So that's gonna do it, guys. Don't power it up if you don't need to. If you need to, because you're doing solo Alolan Raichus by yourself and you don't have any Groudons powered up already, then you may consider doing it. But just remember, Stardust is king. Utilize it to the best of your abilities in the manner that you play this game. If it's PvP, use it for PvP. If it's raids, use it for raids. If it's both, grind harder and get more. So that's gonna do it, guys. I appreciate you guys for tuning in. All my likers, commenters, subscribers, and sharers, that really helps out. And all my Patreons for taking their subscriptions to the next level. I'm gonna see you guys out on the next video. Peace.
I just want to take a moment and sincerely thank all of my Patreon members, everybody that has taken their subscription to the next level and chosen to support me on this platform. I greatly appreciate you guys. As a growing channel and really trying to grow and improve as much as I possibly can, I really appreciate the extra support. You guys mean the absolute world to me. I cannot wait to connect with you soon, and I appreciate you guys all for being a part of the Trainer Club. I will see you guys out on the next video.